I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair. He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the Bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
He did what?
A ground ball past Jenks up the middle of the infield. Uribe has it. He throws. Out! A White Sox winner and a world championship. The White Sox have won the World Series, and they're mobbing each other on the field.
You golden blank staggered black skeleton of blinkety black punk, are you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Kobe Bryant on the move against Christie. In for the right. Flips his shot up. No good. O'Neal lays it up. Missed it. Ball tipped out to Ori. Straight on three. Good! The Lakers have won! Robert Ory's greatest hits tour continues.
Oh, no doubt about it. He's got to be getting a Grammy for that one.
Good morning, and welcome to the Manic Monday edition of Snowman in the Morning. You can follow along with us on social media by dialing up SNW Digital Media for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest. You can also log on to Snowman Digital Media for all of our great conversations from this show, as well as others produced by Snowman Digital Media. This is the best sports talk show you haven't heard of until now. You can hear us every Monday, which is today, through Friday on all of our great stations and networks in the region, across the nation and around the world, and across the internet. And the podcast version of this here show will be available right after this show is completed. You ready to get into it? Good. Let's get started. This is the XFL, or was the XFL. Some reports have come across my desk that the XFL is no more. Over the course of the weekend, I learned that the XFL has suspended operations, and there's no plan for 2021. A lot of people were laid off, except the main executives. And all I can think is, here we go again. When the XFL premiered in 2001, it was gimmicky, it was flashy, and the football was terrible. The championship game, I don't want to even talk about. And after 1 year, everybody pulled the plug. The broadcast networks, the man in charge, Vince McMahon himself. Now we speed up to 2020, and the XFL comes back, and I'm thinking, here we go again. But then, something weird happened. The games were good. They changed a couple of the rules, especially with the kickoff. No one touches each other until the receiver has the ball. I kind of like that. And then you can choose whether to go for 1 point from the 2-yard line, 2 points from the 5-yard line, or 3 points from the 10-yard line, which could really bring a team back into the game. So instead of getting 8 to tie it, you can actually potentially get 9 to get the lead. And another weird thing, the games were actually good. The games were actually intriguing. You never know who was going to step up and be the leader for that particular game and that particular team. And after I saw the DC team play the Defenders, I thought, hey, I can follow this team. But then the Houston Roughnecks were the only undefeated team remaining at the time that the XFL suspended operations and canceled the rest of this season. And then the St. Louis Battlehawks had, dare I say, a full house every time they were home. But then the coronavirus happened. And for safety purposes, and I'm not downplaying it at all, I'm really not. For safety purposes, the league canceled the rest of the season. It just leaves a lot of unanswered questions for me. Would the Roughnecks been the only team to run the table? Would the Roughnecks and the Battlehawks from St. Louis meet in a championship game? Who would be the opponent for Houston? That's just one of the questions. One of the other questions that I had was how many players would actually succeed in their mission of getting to the NFL? And the answer is plenty of them. And it started with P.J. Walker, which puts a fear if you're a fan of the XFL, which I became. And the fear is this: is it going to start an exodus? And would you have to draft teams all over again? We won't know. We won't know because as of right now, the XFL is no more. And there is a strong, strong chance that the XFL would permanently be no more, which means no reboot. And I liked this particular reboot. As I said, the games were good. They were fun to watch. ESPN got involved and put their money where their mouth was. And the production was great. You can stop all the sideline interviews, and let the guys play football and then catch them at halftime. Yeah, you could slow that up. But at the same time, the XFL brought the stadium camera, the flyby camera, into today's NFL. So there were some things to like about this rebooted version of the XFL. But what makes me angry as a fan is that it's taken away before before the full potential can be realized. Same with the Alliance of American Football, but that was just a crap show from the beginning, especially when investors are pulling out. The games are okay. The players were hungry. You had football in San Diego, which I still believe should be home of the San Diego Chargers, but that's a discussion for another day. And now you're left with something to the tune of, now what? Can the XFL come back a third time? Can they? It won't be a problem due to money. It will not be a problem due to money. I can guarantee you that. But how can the XFL come back a third time? And another question that someone brought to me, and I really think it should be asked. Can the XFL and the Alliance of American Football merge their teams? Can that be done? Make it a 16-team league? Well, I don't know if that can be done because it's going to involve a lot of talking. It's going to involve a lot of structure, which the Alliance of American Football did not have. They just didn't have it. It's going to involve people that actually know football to take the AAF over and merge it. It's going to be at least a 2-year process. At least a 2-year process. But put the time into it and look at it at the very least. As far as the XFL goes, the exodus as far as the players have begun, and it began with P.J. Walker from Houston. It began with P.J. Walker, and P.J. Walker was just plain showing off with the Roughnecks. Again, the question I take away from this, finding out that the XFL has suspended operations and there's no clue on 2021, the question I pose is, now what? What's going to happen to the players? What's going to happen to the folks that were working in the stadiums? What's going to happen to the folks that were broadcasting the games? What's going to happen to the radio broadcasters? ESPN's going to be fine. as far as I'm concerned, they took it on as a project and they added their production expertise. And they're good when it comes to live events. Let me say that. As much disdain as I have for that 4-letter network, when it comes to live events, they know how to put a show together. Okay? In most cases, I'll add that. In most cases, they know how to put a show together. I don't know if I can just pick one thing that concerns me the most. The players, the workers, the broadcasters, the fans. How about the fans? The ratings were starting to dwindle each week, but the football got stronger. The football got stronger. And yeah, we saw our first double forward pass executed in the XFL. I think they had the wrong face of the XFL because everybody was depending on Cardale Jones to show them something, and he kept regressing. Meanwhile, P.J. Walker was leading an undefeated Roughnecks team. I nearly said Rockets. An undefeated Roughnecks team, possibly to a championship. It's weird. It's going to be weird for a while without spring football, without football, period. It's been that way since the sports have shut down due to the coronavirus. And I'll throw this in there. I hope everyone is safe and staying home when you're told to stay home and just keeping yourselves healthy. I mean that from the heart. But as a sportsman, I'm kind of lonely. I mean, I got enough Michael Jordan stuff to, keep me busy. But I'll discuss that later on in the show. But what do you do? If you're a fan of the XFL, what do you do? You can't complain because it was a pandemic that shut everything down. You really can't complain because people's lives can potentially be in jeopardy, health-wise especially. What do you do? I guess we all got to do what we have been doing since March 16th. And that's sit back and wait. You kind of had the feeling with the other leagues shutting down that the XFL would bite the dust. I was just hoping it wouldn't bite the dust. I just hope it wouldn't have bitten the dust, period. That's the way I wanted to say it. I just wish they would have kept this season canceled and found a way to come back in 2021. I still hold out hope for that. But we'll have to see. Meanwhile, we enter another day without sports. So, to the XFL, we hardly knew you. Pause for a timeout. Got more stuff for you. Back in a flash.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Holy on smoke!
Where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
Well, as I said in an earlier segment, this was the XFL. And frankly, I kind of hate it. You know, I had time to think about it while I was talking about it earlier in the program today, and let me be frank, I don't like it. I don't like being without sports. I thought I'd never say it aloud until I said it today. Now, more XFL talk with Rick Curdy as he joins me on the hotline. How are you, my friend?
Good, Snowman. How are you?
This is weird. It's mid-April. We just got done with Easter weekend, and there's no daggone sports going on. What?
I know. It's awful.
But at the same time, we want people to remain healthy and stay healthy and stay the course as we get through this pandemic. And I've said it on every show since the lockdowns started, and I will continue to say it. Please take care of yourselves, folks, okay? That means wash your hands when you come out of the bathroom. Keep yourself clean. Keep yourself healthy. If you don't have to go anywhere, don't, okay? As much as I've joked about the pandemic on this show, it is no joke, all right? This is unprecedented times, and we want everyone to stay safe. Now back to the problem at hand. What happened to the XFL, man?
The virus. That's what caused it.
Yeah.
I mean, it suspended the season, and then Vince McMahon, he's like everybody else, losing money. He was going to lose like somewhere between 350, 400 million.
Yeah.
With the XFL because he had to wait to turn a profit. That's how much money invested in it. And then he's not making money from the WWE because there's no audience.
Nope.
And so he's just bleeding money. And as much as I hate that it's canceled, I mean, he had to do it because you can't be paying people for something that's not showing. And so do I believe it's fully gone? No, because there's maybe a slim possibility it'll come back in 2022 when this thing is over with. Right now we don't know because this thing's going on and it's accelerating. It might decrease a little bit, but people are still dying. People are still getting sick. People are still testing positive. So he had to end it now because if he didn't, he was going to go bankrupt. So I get it, but I hate it because I love the league. It's a great league. And this virus has just absolutely paralyzed our world right now.
It has really paralyzed us as sports fans. It's paralyzed our world. And, I had a friend say something that's very true. When something huge was going on, we always had sports to lean on, to be that Band-Aid to get us back to some kind of normalcy. Now that's been affected big time, and that Band-Aid we usually lean on is not there. So we're forced to look at other things. Like I said in an earlier show, my wife got me hooked on baking championships. And my friends at work will go, "Why are you hooked on that?" "Oh, it's pretty simple. Food."
Yeah, I like that kind of stuff. I like when they make cake. Those are fun.
Yeah.
I watch Chopped. I like Chopped. I've been watching a lot of horror movies. I've been renting a ton of movies that I like. That's pretty much it. I just can't watch any reruns of, like a 2006 Super Bowl or something. I just can't do it.
Oh, shucks, I can. I can for a couple of reasons because I always said, and I do, I have a lot of archives available to me. But the archives I watch are like from the 80s and the 90s because given the way that, and I hate, people hate when I say this on air, but let's just think about how true it is. The way the NBA is now, can I just have a game from the 90s on a loop for a little while, please?
The NBA stinks right now. It's just all offense, and it's like baseball. When someone used to hit 50 home runs, it was like, wow. Now it's like, oh. And when someone scores like 50 or 60 points, it's like, Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When back in our day, Jordan or anyone scored 50 points, it was like breaking news.
It was
top news of the day, and now it's like, oh, okay. It's so watered down now, and it's just not the same.
It is. It's so watered down. Like you said, it's all offense. As Cole Johnson has put it, it's the 10-wing league, and I really bleeping hate it. There's no defined positions anymore. Even with the point guards, they're all they're mostly hybrids. And one of my favorite players right now, Stephen Curry, can be defined as a hybrid. Yeah, he's a point guard. He's a great point guard, but he also shoots a lot. You know, that's what makes him who he is. Don't get me wrong, and I love who he is. I love the Splash Brothers, but I want to see some defense. I want to see some defensive plays of the game, and don't even try to sell me. And I got a lot of pushback for this. Don't try to sell me that LeBron's chase down block was the greatest defensive play in NBA Finals history. I got spoiled by Michael Jordan for 13 years. Don't give me that.
Yeah. I mean, no, not the greatest of history. Maybe one of, but not the greatest. I mean, I remember seeing James Worthy do one. I remember Larry Bird. I remember.
Yep.
I mean, just you can go back in the day. So, this new generation is something great, and it's like the greatest in the world. And I'm like, no. I saw it in the 90s, or I saw it in the 80s. So I mean, get out of here with that.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean,
thank you. I got started watching
people are
hoops.
prisoners of the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
I got started watching hoops in 1980. Yeah. There was a fellow by the name of Irvin Magic Johnson who was setting precedents. Larry Bird was setting precedents as they came in at the same time and rescued the NBA. And I've always asked this, and people think I'm crazy when I ask this, but can we have a couple of those kind of games, please? Can we just revive the Forum for a throwback game? Can we just do that? Revive the Forum, and not the Great Western Forum, but the Forum, the fabulous Forum, as Loris Tanner would introduce it. The Old Hive, the Charlotte Coliseum. That was louder than hell, okay?
Well, back then, when they used to block shots, they would block it and block it to their teammates. Now they want to block
it 7 rows in the
back.
Yep.
And like, ooh, look at me. And I'm like, what about you? The other team got the ball.
Yeah, and all you do in that situation
is hits a 500-foot home run, and they run around the bases, and it's like it's a home run. You're still down 12-2. Who cares?
Absolutely. The one thing I was looking forward to, or a couple of things I was looking forward to for baseball this year, and I've said this before to my friends, I wanted to see if the Nationals could defend their title, and I wanted to see my beloved White Sox make the playoffs because they had the squad together to take that next step. People don't believe me, but if you look at the roster, they've got the tools, man. The White Sox have got the tools in place.
Yeah, we're never going to know. I think they're going to hit a season this year, and then they're going to try to do some crazy realignment, have the games played and all in Arizona, and have them all played in Florida and spring training camp places. And I don't. They need to. They just need to cancel the season.
Just cancel the season. Make sure everybody's healthy, and we start with 2021 because 2020 has sucked royally. Okay. I'm echoing the feelings I'm echoing the feelings of a lot of people, yourself included. We're only 3+ months into the year. We're in the 4th month right now, but 2020 has sucked, man.
And I was looking forward to it. Like, ooh, I can't wait till 2020. Right. And I'm like, please go away. It's horrific. I've never experienced anything like this. I hope I never have. I told my mom, and I said, have you ever experienced anything like this? She goes, never. This is not even close to anything I've ever experienced in my life. And she lived during she remembers when John F. Kennedy was assassinated and 9/11, and she said, this is worse.
The worst thing I have experienced was 9/11, 2001. Yeah, that's the worst thing I have experienced in my life. I've been through the first black mayor in Chicago, Harold Washington, been through his passing, and he passed during a school day, so everybody got the heck out. Everybody was released from school the day Harold Washington died in 1987 or 88. I beg your pardon. I've been through some stuff. Okay, Bears winning a Super Bowl, Bulls winning 6 titles, my beloved White Sox winning it all. Worst thing I've been through was 2001 with 9/11, and even that turned out to be even that event led to a rescue of the country because of when sports returned, when baseball returned, as a matter of fact, and how it bound the country, and how it repaired the country. That's the word I'm looking for.
I remember it was the Diamondbacks and the Yankees. I remember George W. Bush threw out the first pitch, and it was a strike right down the middle,
right down the pipe.
And and people probably didn't agree with him or like him, but the man had an 80-some% approval rating because he did a good job, healing our country. And we were just like, we're not going to be divided right now. We need to be united. And as horrific as it was great to see our country reunite so quickly. And so this is something I've never experienced with this thing because it's affected everybody.
It
no
has.
Matter whether you're at. I mean, you could be in Italy or China or anywhere. It has affected everybody.
It seems like after the Super Bowl, everything went down. When the NCAA championships were canceled, not postponed, folks, canceled, my mouth dropped. When that announcement came out, the NBA put a pause on the season, the NHL, Major League Baseball. I can deal with all that. The NCAA, I believe, made the smartest move and canceled the remainder of the season. Does it hurt the seniors? Yeah. Yes, it does, because they won't get that eligibility back. The spring students will get their senior eligibility back, and I'm proud of that. But no Final Four, no national championship, which means the city of Atlanta lost a ton of money because Mercedes-Benz Stadium was going to be an absolute jewel for the Final Four, for the championship. It's not the first time that it's been held in Atlanta, but it would have been the first time. Second time, I believe 80,000 plus would have crowded into a stadium because they did it in Dallas. But at the same time, Mercedes-Benz Stadium was set to be on a global display, and the coronavirus pandemic took care of that. And I mean, it's to a fan's detriment if you wanted to see the national championship or the Final Four, which I do, but it's also for the fans and the players' safety. And we gotta earmark that. It's for the fans and the players' safety. I'd rather have something take a long time to come back, even though it would drive me up a bleeping wall, but I'd rather have it come back healthy and happy and stronger, knowing that we got through this pandemic.
And when this thing's over with and they reopen things, there are going to be people that are like, I don't know if there's still people who are not sure that it's over with, so that they might just stay home. So it's going to be a while, It's going to be a while for that fear to go away. And, when they say it's okay and it's safe, I might have to keep a distance. I don't know yet, and I think a lot of people are struggling with that. And then you got the dummies that keep going out there. Like out here, they keep going to the parks.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, they close it off. They put yellow tape around. They just go around the yellow tape, and it's just like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah. People are bleeping, people are bleeping nuts.
The wall. Just stay home. I mean, right now it's pouring down rain. Just stay home.
Yeah. People are bleeping nuts, and that's all I have to say. Rick Curdy joining me here on the program to talk about the absence of sports and the safety therein. We want y'all to remain safe. Thanks a lot, Rick. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, man. Have a good Easter.
More stuff for you, folks, after this.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
I did not need to be told that.
Where true sports talk lives.
Excellent.
Can't wait.
I finally had a chance to, or have a chance, I should say, to get this gentleman on the air with me. He is one of the men in charge of one of our syndicated networks, the RTF Sports Network, and this is Michael Buckheiser, and he joins me right now. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. It's a beautiful weekend outside. It was my birthday this past Saturday, so I mean, I can't be much more excited to be on with the man, the myth, the legend, Brian Snowman himself.
Well, I thank you for that. A happy belated birthday to you, and I finally get to say to you on the air, congratulations on the birth of your second son. I know that had to be exciting and a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, man, like, people do not realize, like, when you have one child in the household and then have two, like, how big of change, like, it actually is. Because my oldest son is only 2, and then bringing home, like, a newborn, it is, like, you forget, like, you know, you waking up every couple hours. You have to change diapers every 10 minutes. You know, it's just, but, yeah, I mean, it is the biggest blessing that I could ever ask for. Like, 2 amazing, healthy boys, it is fantastic. I
am so happy for you. And from one father to another, when I had Donna, there was tummy time, and there was tummy time. There was waking up every couple hours, like you said, and I didn't know what to do. And, you know, I was just told, you know, you'll learn all that and it'll become instinctual. Well, they were dead on right, because all I would have to hear, and I know you've gone through this now twice over, all I would have to hear is my child get a little restless and I'm up out of a dead sleep.
Yeah. I mean, like, it is crazy that you say that, because, like, my son, Trip, like he kind of does this little cough in his sleep.
Yeah.
And it almost sounds like he's choking.
Mm-hmm.
And you would think I ran a 4.340 in my college days, man, because I am from one side of the house to the other in a heartbeat. Everything all right, man? And, you know, he's still just snoring away. It is crazy that you say that, because it happens to me every night, at least twice a night.
And it's so crazy when you become a father. It is so crazy. Your life changes so fast. When Donna was born, I didn't know or think I would ever become a father. And then the day that she was born, March 6th of 13, a very significant day for me, everything changed. It's like, okay, you're cruising right along, and then a child's introduced, and you're like, now what? It's just everything you were working on comes to a screeching halt. And then all of a sudden, you're like, okay, you're here. And you look at your wife, and like, you're here. Wait a minute. What? It's such a crazy, and I say that jokingly, and all the dads that listen to the show, they know I joke around with this. I have so much fun talking about fatherhood, and now I have 2 grown stepchildren, and now I also have grandchildren. So it's a crazy change. When you become a parent, it's a crazy change.
Yeah, I mean, like, you said something here that, like, really hits home to me, is like your priorities change. I mean, like, you know, you could be a professional athlete, you're doing this, or, you know, you are working the stock market, like, you're working 15, 16-hour days, but the minute you have that newborn baby in your hand, nothing matters. Like, you know, It is like everything that I've worked for, awesome, but now my priority is like raising the best young men that I could possibly raise, and, you know, and like get and have them have amazing wives and amazing lives. And it all starts like the minute, you know, they come into the world and take their first breath. Like, me and Cindy have had many conversations over and over again, and she has mentioned because, you know, we both love both of our sons tremendously by, I mean, like, no stretch of the imagination. But her biggest thing was like, how can I love another child as much as I love my first?
Right.
And it just comes so natural. I mean, like, I don't love one more than the other, but by like any means, but it is crazy like how much love and passion you can give those kids.
It's so true. When I met my wife 2 years ago, and she told me about her kids and her grandkids, and part of my brain said, what? And then the other part of my brain said, okay, kids, cool, okay. And I got introduced to them, and they're grown now. My son's 21. He'll be 22 this year, and my daughter will turn 25. And the first time, and I've never told this story on the air, the first time that I met Dakota, her son, she wanted to get a picture of both of us. And before she took the pictures, she looked at me and she said, I'd swear you would be this kid's father, as goofy as you two are. So Dakota and I decided to test that theory while she was trying to take a picture, and she took 4 different pictures, and either one of us or both of us were making a goofy face the entire time.
I love it. I mean, just like hearing your personality come out in your shows it is so inspiring to, like, you know, put more personality in my shows, and like that story right there, just it makes me smile from ear to ear.
I really appreciate it. This is the man in charge of Just for Clicks joining me. Tell me about Just for Clicks. Tell me how you got that started.
So, I was listening to your show on Wednesday, I should say, and the girls you had on as the long story short, long story. I believe she said was it's crazy that she said that because like my mom says that like all the time.
Right.
But I digress on that. So Just for Click came out roughly about a year ago. About a year and a half ago, I met a man by the name of Matthew Lyle, and he's like, I want to do a show, but I don't have anybody to that really knows how to. It's like a tech savvy type of person, mm-hmm. And I'm like, look, man, I work IT, I do this stuff every day. You want to do the show? I will put you on air. I'll be your producer, mixer, et cetera, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we quickly knew that, hey, we have a thing happening here. And I got more of a bigger role, on the show, and have you ever watched the Jim Rome show when the producer kind of chimes in,
yes.
Every now and then, I kind of got that role, kind of that instinct. And then we brought another host onto the show, by the man of Marcus the Sports Freak. Mm-hmm. And those two bantered a lot. And there were some days when they couldn't make the show. So I would jump in and, fill in as a co-host / producer.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I do have a stutter. I have a speech impediment. I have a whole backstory on that. If you guys are interested in that, just go to the Just for Clicks YouTube page and you can check out and watch that whole story from birth to now. And I just thought I could maybe inspire some people that do have speech impediments that can, eventually make it. So that is when Just for Clicks kind of started, was when the other show kind of started to fizzle out a tad bit. Matthew had a son, Sports Freak. He switched jobs, so the hours weren't available for him. So I started doing a solo show, and I went by the name of the Michael Show for a tad while. But then the NFL MVP Lamar Jackson. I'm from Southern Indiana, the Louisville area, and people love Lamar Jackson just around here. And for a solid football season, I trolled Lamar Jackson, and there were people in the comments sections and stuff saying, this show is just for clicks, yada yada yada. I'm like, well, let's roll with that. So we rebranded the show name, came back at the start of this football season, this 2019 football season, and we are still trolling Lamar Jackson to this day.
Well, I got to say, congratulations to your Kansas City Chiefs. They are the world champions. They did beat my 49ers in the Super Bowl. But I will say, we'll see y'all in Tampa. Let's get together and do it again.
I would love to do that again.
And have an even better game.
The only thing is the 49ers need to start bringing some wide receivers in there to even have a chance. Though.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, because the running game fizzled out. It really did. Tell me, who are some of your basketball teams? I know you're a big-time K-State fan, but who are some basketball teams that you follow while we get to know you here on the program?
Yeah, so college sports-wise, I did play at Kansas State. I am a Wildcat. I bleed purple, so I will always root for my Kansas State Wildcats through thick or thin.
Right.
When I married my wife, Cindy, here about almost 3 years ago now, she is a huge Kentucky Wildcat fan. You know, her family bleeds blue. And
right.
when I initially moved to Southern Indiana, I had every intention of being a Card fan.
Right.
And you know, I had to support my wife. So I am now a diehard Kentucky fan as well. And I get a lot of slack for that. And like, how can we have two college teams? I'm like, well, we're not in the same conference. The only time K-State and Kentucky play each other is in the Sweet 16, and
right.
K-State beats that ass.
Right.
So, I mean,
they did.
So, and then as far as NBA goes, I don't really have the NBA per se.
Okay.
I do root for the hometown team, Indiana Pacers,
Mm-hmm.
Just because they're easier to follow here in the Indiana State.
Right.
But I know you're going to love this. I am a LeBron James fan, so
So you know I'm going to pick.
James.
So you know I'm going to pick at you now. You really
right? Yeah. That's why I said it. LeBron James is the GOAT.
Mike Buckeister joining me, the man in charge of Just for Clicks and one of the men in charge of the RTF Sports Network, joining me here. We're just chopping it up here on the program. Now, what got me into college basketball was Patrick Ewing when he was at Georgetown, Michael Jordan because he was at North Carolina. You know how I feel about Michael Jordan. We can have that long discussion later, and that's probably going to be an unfiltered episode. So y'all look out for that. I love the Running Rebels from like 88 to 90 because one of my favorite players is Larry Johnson. And then when I met my wife, Dr. K, she started at Purdue, and I'm thinking, oh God, a Boilermaker. I told her that. She starts laughing, but she finished at IU in Bloomington. But me being from the Chicago area, I love the Fighting Illini of Illinois, and I also love my Northwestern Wildcats, who also wear purple. So we're going to be purple Wildcats for a while.
Yeah,
but
nothing wrong with that.
No, I know her favorite football team is the Indianapolis Colts, and I got a little love for the Colts because my baby girl was born in Indy. But for me, the team that started it for me was the 49ers because of Joe Montana. My hometown team is the Bears. And like I said, I always show love for the Indianapolis Colts. But you're not the only one that trolled Lamar Jackson, because a lot of people were getting on me about, how can you not love Lamar Jackson and what he's done? I said, I've seen his exploits at Louisville, so I'm very familiar with Lamar Jackson. I want to see him do it in January. And he didn't, because the Tennessee Titans stomped them in their house. This is what people don't understand about great players in college and have that translate into the NFL. Did he have a fantastic season? Absolutely. I look at January and beyond for players like Lamar Jackson, like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Jimmy Garoppolo, and give all the credit in the world to both Mahomes and Garoppolo, especially Mahomes, because Mahomes won the Super Bowl. Garoppolo got there. Until you unseat those two, your quarterback ain't in the conversation. And don't shoot me this Cowboy stuff either.
So let me give a little backstory on why I don't hate Lamar Jackson. I hate Lamar Jackson fans because they put him on such a pedestal, like he is the greatest of all time to walk this earth. Was it week 1 and week 2 of the 2019 season? He threw for like five touchdowns, threw for
week
300 or 400 yards.
Week 1 against Miami.
And like he goes in this press conference is like, yeah, pretty good for a tailback or something something along those lines. And those fans are just like, oh, he is the greatest of all time, MVP, yada yada yada. And then week 4, and week 5, he is just a above average quarterback.
Right.
I mean, so, and then his fans are saying, he played a better defense. He doesn't have to throw for 5 touchdowns every time.
Right.
But they won the game. Yada, yada, yada. But then those same people are jogging, let's say Dak Prescott.
Right.
I'm not saying Dak is on the level of Lamar Jackson, but Dak throws for 5 touchdowns, or I don't have the stats in front of me by any means, but versus a horrible Miami Dolphins team,
right?
And they're saying, they're playing the Miami Dolphins. Well, what do you want? You cannot have your cake and eat it too. So that is one of the biggest reasons why I dog Lamar Jackson so much.
Yeah.
It's because those fans just put him on such a pedestal. If those fans were level-headed, it would be a totally different story. Lamar Jackson he is easily one of a top 5 regular season quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me a lot of Peyton Manning. Great during the regular season, but what do you do for me in January? First round exit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the same thing I feel with certain players. Coming up on a break, but I want to thank Mike Buckheister for joining me, one of the men in charge of the RTF Sports Network, one of our great syndicators with stations all across the country, and we're just going to continue to grow. The man in charge of Just for Clicks, Mike Buckheister, joining me. Thanks a lot, brother. I love you, and I can't wait to have you back on.
Have a great show, man.
Got more stuff for you coming up in the Deuce.
Snowman in the morning.
Hadouken!
Where true sports talk lives.
He did what?
I did not need to be told that.
You know, I have to admit something aloud that I've only admitted to myself silently. without live sports, I don't know what to do, what to criticize, what to talk about. I do find stuff to talk about because, people and social media merge together. But I got to tell you something. Without having sports live, what have we missed so far? The Masters, that's gone by the wayside. The NCAA championships, men and women, that's been canceled, gone by the wayside. Baseball's gone. NCAA baseball is gone because they canceled all spring events. Major League Baseball is in a holding pattern. The NBA is in a holding pattern. The NHL is in a holding pattern. What do you do? There's not much to do, especially for sports fans. They've been running old games. And I have to say, being the old school man that I am, that's appreciated. It is really, really appreciated. But at the same time, what do you do? Well, for me, I've been binge watching the Holiday Baking Championships with my wife. I've been hard at work putting this show together for you fans that tune in, working on all my websites and keeping myself busy that way. I got enough old school sports on my computer to not fall by the wayside. And with a couple of leagues I've become disenchanted with, the NBA being one. So I miss it, but not that much. My wife's not a big time baseball fan, but I am. And I was looking forward to seeing two things, which may still happen. One, can the Washington Nationals defend their title? And two, can the Chicago White Sox be their opponent? Oh, did I put something out there I should not have? Oh, well. But there's a lot of anticipation of when everything will come back. The NBA won't have an answer till May. I miss you know what I miss the most amidst this coronavirus pandemic? Aside of watching sports, I miss calling the games. Because those of you who know me or know of me, I also am a play-by-play announcer. And I miss calling the games, man. I miss being at the high school or college games. Getting the lineups, especially now with baseball, and I haven't done a full baseball season since 2016. And I was really looking forward to this season to finally put an end to that drought. Unfortunately, that drought is probably going to continue for another few months as I've relocated and I haven't found a summer team yet, but I'm still looking. I just miss being at the games. I guess that's why I've been so enchanted with some of the professional leagues. I miss calling the games more than watching them. I miss seeing the camaraderie in person. I miss seeing the events in person and being there and lending my voice to the action. I haven't done a state championship for basketball since 2015 with Marquette Catholic. 2016, I got close, and then some stuff happened with a certain individual that decided to lie on me. That's a story for Snowman Unfiltered. But since then, it's been hit or miss for me. And now with this coronavirus pandemic, I just really miss being at the games. I really miss coming into a stadium or an arena with my equipment, setting up my equipment, talking to people that pass by, talking to people that are going to be assisting with the game, with the broadcast, I beg your pardon. I miss letting the people know when the broadcast is going to be live. I miss all of that. I guess that's one thing I miss more than anything else. Setting up, executing the broadcast, being tired after the broadcast, and that's a weird thing for me. But My friend Mark Farina, who was my baseball partner for 2 years, said it best. I get zoned in for a good 3 hours, and then my body and my brain just give out after it's all said and done. I miss that feeling. And I'm hoping soon to get back into it so I can continue to provide the voice that everyone looks for, that everyone talks about, and providing a service to the community that I'm in. That's the biggest thing that I miss doing.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy on smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair.
He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
The kick, and here it comes. Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books. The celebration is on. The Washington Nationals are the world champions.
You gold-dang blank-staggered black skeleton and blinkety black bunker, you trying to do? Of all that low dirty...
Johnson is three-point territory, but guarded tightly. Johnson cuts left, now fires a three. It is good, and he's fouled. It counts, and he is fouled.
Do you believe it? He did what?
Hour 2. So I've had some very guilty pleasures during the coronavirus pandemic. Can't even talk this morning. And one of them just happens to be a show that I got hooked on watching while at work. His name is Rod Peterson, and he joins me right now. And I told him, I got to have you on the show. And he said, yeah, let's go for it. So he's here. Rod, how are you, man?
This is wild. How you doing, Brian?
Your show has become such a guilty pleasure for me from a production standpoint and from a content standpoint, because I don't know. I listened one day while I was on break at work, and I just got hooked. So I had to have you on.
How did you find it? How did you find it?
Facebook.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'll take it. Whatever it is.
I found it via Facebook, and I was sitting in the break room at work, and I said, what show is this? And I put my headset in, or I put my earbuds in, and I was just stuck there for a good 20 minutes, the length of my break. And I said, okay, I have to mark this. He has to come on the show, and I got to find a way to get him on the show. But you have a fabulous show, my friend. Thanks again for coming on.
I really appreciate it, man. I've been doing this business a long time. The way that we're doing it now is new, as you mentioned, using Facebook Live and the various other platforms that we have. But I know this. I worked for 20 years in the Canadian Football League, and I never, ever, ever turned down an interview with an opportunity to to talk about stuff like this. I appreciate the opportunity, my man, and glad to be on in Indiana.
Oh man, thanks for coming on. How'd you get hooked up with the CFL? And my backup question is, who's your CFL team?
Well, how did I get hooked up? Boy, we don't have enough time. But I was the Saskatchewan Roughriders. The Saskatchewan Roughriders, which I call Canada's team,
right?
Which I actually tabbed Canada's team. I grew up on a farm 30 miles south of the city, Regina, Saskatchewan, and through a winding road of broadcasting and sport, ended up as the voice of the Roughriders in 1999. It's been just a wonderful ride. And then after my 20th season, pulled the pin, and I actually work full-time in recovery, mental health and substance abuse prevention, addiction, and had some guys come to me, some tech guys, that said, listen, we have this concept for a Facebook Live show, but we thought could move the needle. Would you consider coming in and just, hosting this show on Facebook Live? And I said, yeah, there's a few conditions. They met them, and away we go. And we're sitting here talking about it, Brian. Your listeners probably haven't seen it. So I'm kind of calling it a combination of David Letterman meets SportsCenter meets The View. And when you said that you got hooked on it, that's the thing. It continues. We've done, I think, 211 episodes. It just blows people's minds.
Yeah.
Because there's never been anything like it before.
It really hasn't. I got started doing this. I've been doing play-by-play. I'll start my 25th year in August, covering a lot of high school athletics. I got started doing my show on a dare back in Chicago because a friend of mine heard me do an interview with a local show, and she looked at me and said, "Why don't you have your own show?" I said, "Are you kidding me? I barely have enough equipment to work with." And she says, "Okay, find a way to get it live on the program, even if they just hear your voice, and do it." So it took about a month for me to put this together. And when I started in October of 2013, this was an hour-long show, and now it's morphed into a 3-hour monster. And I've been inconsistent with it, I will admit, and I have admitted this on the air. But now, since I met my wife and she heard my show, she says, "I think I have a few ways of you getting consistent with it and making it better so you don't burn yourself out." I tell you what, man, she gave me some great suggestions, and they're all working.
You got yourself a great woman there.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, so do I, but these guys, these business partners of mine, it's hilarious, Brian, you say that, because it sounds like we could be kindred souls. But when these guys said, "Come host this show," I said, "Here's the deal. I want to sit in the chair and talk, and then when it's over, I want to leave." You guys can line up the guests. You guys do the social media. You guys do the sales. You guys do everything. And I just want to sit there and talk and then leave. I'll handle the being entertaining part. But the thing is, when I said I was the voice of the CFL team, I did a daily talk show every day where I did all those things. And it just absolutely burnt me out. It wore me into the ground. And it actually kind of zapped my love for broadcasting. And then probably a couple weeks into this show, the Rod Peterson show, I had guys calling me. Now, again, we're using Canadian terms here, so I'm hopeful that your listeners can, understand what I'm saying. But I had people from national broadcast networks calling me or texting me or DMing me saying, "I'm so jealous of you. You're having so much fun." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You're in downtown Toronto on CBC, man.
Right.
You've got the dream." I'm like, "You are a national, television broadcaster on TSN, which is our ESPN."
Yes.
And I'm like, "And you're calling me to say you're jealous of me? Get bent, man."
Do you know?
Does that all make sense
can
to you?
Share it. It doesn't make sense. I can share so many times of people telling me what station I should be on, what station I should be working for, what station I and this is my favorite because I got it from my mom for many years, what station I need to be working for. And every one of those times I said I would, but there would be some conditions that they won't meet. And I said this to my mother, and she says, what are you talking about? You're talking sports. Yeah, here's the problem. I will not be allowed to give my unfiltered opinion.
Yeah, that's why I left.
I said,
it took me some time, Brian, to understand why these national broadcasters were saying they were jealous of me. You could see how I would be a little insulted at first, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And then because they're like, you're having fun and you're saying what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had a lot of people in the industry I've been going on podcasts similar to yours, and they're like, Rod, what do you think of the state of the broadcast industry? And I'm like, am I allowed to say that I think it's a toilet? And here's why. Here's a great example. With the we're live, right? With the coronavirus, I'm almost afraid to say this on my show, but I'll say it on yours. TSN and Sportsnet, which are our national broadcasters,
mm-hmm.
like your ESPN and Fox, all they did from like the day the NBA walked off the floor and then the NHL followed suit the next day, these two networks just closed up their doors, boarded up the windows, and started running old games or carrying 24/7 American programming.
Yep.
And so a lot of my friends just were sent home. And a lot have had their wages docked, and they're upset because we got into the business to be on the air.
Right.
And I said, why did these decisions get made to run these old games? Because I don't like that. I love the predictability of sports, and if I'm going to watch a rebroadcast, why? There's no point. I know who wins.
Yep.
And these guys, they said the accounting department is running our network. Not... Doesn't that make sense to you when they say that?
It makes total sense. This is why I started my own network, and I've teamed up with a few others that have the same vision. And it's going to become a conglomerate that, for lack of a better term, is going to piss a lot of people off. Because look, people tell me you shouldn't be breaking the rules. Well, if I don't break them, I bend the hell out of them. Doing this online, I bend them like crazy. And whenever I say that, and my wife hears me say that, she just starts cracking up laughing because she knows how I am. But it's the truth. I mean, give me an example of a rule.
Okay,
I have been told so many times that I'll give you a play-by-play example. I cover a lot of high school games, and I have been told by rule that no one will listen to them. You have to give them a video product. So when I was in Michigan City, Indiana, and I had Marquette Catholic under my belt, I said, "Oh, really? No one will listen, huh?" Like, nope. That's the sacred rule, especially in Indiana. You have to give them a video product. So when I hooked up with Marquette Catholic, I said, I'm going to test this theory, and I'm going to make a lot of people mad. The first broadcast I did for Marquette Catholic in November 2013 got me 2,500 listeners.
Wow. Yeah, but see, that doesn't surprise me either. And in the year that I've been, since I left that play-by-play job on radio, mainstream media, I've learned a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And 98% of them is people don't know stuff.
Right.
People don't know bunk, and they're going to tell you that they do, but they don't. And and I like having the freedom to do exactly what you just did. And now I always say the difference between America and Canada in terms of broadcast or economy or whatever, population is at a zero.
Mm-hmm.
So with our show, it fluctuates, right? You don't have the same amount of viewers every day, but I sit there and, one day we got 10,000 viewers. The next day we got 2,500 viewers.
Yep.
But that's pretty good by Canadian standards. And if you were to extrapolate that to America, that would be 100,000 viewers. All of a sudden, people are picking up and paying attention. But because we are in, I don't know, are you a Netflix fan, Brian?
Kind of, sort of.
Well, there was the documentary Last Chance U about the college football program in Independence, Kansas. Just to give you an idea what we're like here, we're like Independence, Kansas. It lives for football. That's it. That's what people get out of bed for.
Beautiful.
On a daily basis is to talk football.
Yes.
But we also, hockey's big here too.
Yep.
So I just knew that if I went on the air and just told stories and brought on my friends from the football and hockey world, we're going to have a winner. And I think the other thing too is people think because it's on the internet, you're going to start being a Howard Stern and swearing and dropping all these F-bombs.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I'm very respectful of the broadcast industry. I couldn't bring myself to swear on the air.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I can't still be me and say the truth. And it's just, I think we've reached the tipping point in society where people want the truth. They don't want, I see it all the time on Twitter and stuff. People are ripping the networks, Brian, saying, you're lying to me.
Right.
You actually believe what you're saying. And I feel sorry for the broadcasters because I've been in that role. It's like you know what you want to say, but you know what you're told to say, and they're two different things.
Oh yeah,
and it just wasn't. It was enough for me.
Yeah, that's why I never got to ESPN. That's why I never got to Fox, and I never got to CBS Sports. And I say 2 words: thank God.
Good for, well, I am now. But the thing is, a lot of those guys sitting at that desk in the nice suit are my friends. So I try to just tone that down. I'm like, good for you guys, but I couldn't do it, and it took me a while to kind of reconcile it. But again, I don't know how much of a hockey fan you are, but there's a pretty big name in the NHL named Matthew Barnaby.
Yep.
He was a fighter. Yeah, you might remember him. And just over the past probably 6 months, we've got to be really good friends. And he does his own show on satellite radio. And I said to him, Barney, why are you not on TSN or ESPN, man? You look great. You have everything you need. You got the experience. And he goes, I just couldn't do it. He goes, I have a studio set up in my house. I'm on satellite radio and on NHL radio, on XM Sirius, and I don't have to leave my house. I do 2 hours a day, and I'm happy.
And that's
and I'm
that's
like, I hugged him. Yeah. I almost broke his spine. Yeah. I hugged him so much.
I love it. I love it, and it's something I'm building. It's something I'm building toward. When I get to take the show on the road, and people hear, cars behind me, and I'm, rolling in the trailer, and like, wait a minute, how are you doing this? And you got people rolling by you. Look, I'm happy. I've been happy with Snowman in the Morning for the almost 7 season it's been active. I'm going to celebrate my 25th season in broadcasting. My company's going to celebrate its 25th year. And I close with this, what people love to throw at me is, I haven't brought in that much money. And I add 3 dots and a simple 3-letter word, yet. It's taken me a while to learn everything that I need to learn, but I'm going to have fun, man, while I'm continuing to build this. And I finally got some people that will help build it with me. I got a couple of other networks that syndicate my show. Now, like you, I got to find some people that are going to really sell this thing. And by Labor Day weekend, I'm going to reach back out to you and say, you really want to have some fun?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. If you really want to get down to it, and I'm not pressed for time here, you just tell me to shut up when you want to go. But just with the pandemic and coronavirus, as far as the broadcast industry, when you consider, and again, I don't really know what's going on in America. I see the broadcasters are all broadcasting from home.
Yep.
At least they're on the air.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when this lifts, whenever that is, you're going to see a major shift in how the media operates.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and that's I don't know why this is happening. I don't know how it's going to end, but I just know with us, if you're broadcasting with 2,500 listeners to a high school game, you got something to sell.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's the same thing with us. I mean, I started a blog, Brian, in 2006, rodpeterson.com. The only reason I started it was to get stuff off my chest. Because when you're calling a game, as you know, when you're calling a game, there's no room for that.
No.
You're calling the game. You don't really have time to get stuff off your chest. So way back then, everybody had a blog.
Mm-hmm.
And they died within a year. And I just see now, 15 years later, everybody's got a podcast.
Yep.
Everybody's going live on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's live streaming. Well, you know what? They're either going to get bored of that because of lack of listeners. They're going to go, why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to stop.
Yeah.
And the strongest will survive.
Absolutely it will.
And I would suggest that'll be your show. I pray that it'll be my show. And it's like you say, the sales. I'm not a business guy. Okay. So to go in and ask your business for your money, I can't do it. But there are people that don't have a problem doing that.
Yeah.
So you just kind of got to surround yourselves with the right people. And I go back to the tech side of my show. I have no idea how they're doing it. I've got broadcasters all over the continent, Brian, writing me on Facebook going, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I don't know.
I totally
like that, huh?
understand that. Because last year when I was living in Terre Haute, Indiana, I kept asking myself, how am I going to do a show? Because my wife was at work. I said, how am I going to do a show while she's teaching class? And I had access to the internet, so I figured I'm going to go for it and try to do a show from this little student cafe. And it worked. People were tuning in. They were listening. They were commenting. And I'm going, wait a second. This was all off an idea. I think I'm on to something. And I've been, running with it from there. And now, man, this is too much fun to me. I'm not giving this up. This is absolutely too much fun.
That's the whole idea. And then to be honest with you, you don't have to be a hippie tree hugger to actually believe that in 2020, happiness is the new currency. Happiness is the new success. And I should tell you that one thing that we've realized if you've watched our show is the interactive nature of it.
Yes.
I mean, to be able to watch a show and then to comment with the host is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. So furthermore, just imagine watching Letterman interview or Letterman and Paul Schaefer, and you want to send in a comment and they address you. That's what we're doing.
That's the most gratifying and the most satisfying thing about it is when we are interactive. Because a couple times I snuck away. I said, let me see what Rod's doing. And I would send you a quick comment and I'd look at my watch and go, oh, damn, I got to go back to work. But it's a wonderful show. Folks, if you haven't checked it out on Facebook Live, just look up the Rod Peterson Show. You will be entertained as I am. So trust me when I tell you that. And the man in charge, Rod Peterson, here on the program, I cannot thank you enough for coming on, and I'd love to have you on again.
Well, you do me the favor of coming on my show. That would be the greatest honor of them all.
You got it. You got it. You absolutely got it. It would be an honor, sir.
Okay, my man. Well, I appreciate the time.
All right. Thank you very much. I got more stuff for y'all when you get back.
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Holy on snow!
Where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
We are rolling right along here on the program. Thank y'all for joining us. So I'm going to go off the board a little bit. I had a very wonderful guest, and her daughter joined me for a team interview. And I said, well, when can I get you back on the show? And she says, I'm ready anytime you want. Who do you want to join me this time? So, of course, me being who I am, I said, bring your husband. Let's really get down to some business. Shirley Walker King and her husband Vince are now here. How are you guys?
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. It's great to have you guys on, and I'll tell you what, you guys talking marriage in a podcast? Sign me up, please.
We can do that.
That's the least we can do. I mean, we haven't stayed married this long not to be able to talk about it.
So true. So many of my friends followed when I got married last June, and it's been, I got to be honest, part of it's been a struggle because we're just getting used to North Carolina, but outside of that, I can't do anything without my Dr. K next to me. I mean, it's a team effort. It truly is.
That's right. And that's what I always tell folks. I mean, it's like it's a business. You know what I mean? Being in the marriage is a business. So you always have to consult with your partner pretty much on things that you do, and sometimes, we got married a lot at a young age. So, at that time it was guys making fun of you. Being 22, 23 years old, of course, Vincent can't do this, can't do that.
Right.
But I always kind of consulted with my wife with things. So I, kind of didn't care about that. And not to just say everything was smooth. Of course, we had our ups and downs, but I kind of got it after a minute of a couple bumps upside the head. I got it.
Nothing that left a permanent mark. He's okay, folks. He's okay.
Figuratively speaking, okay?
I understand. And
I think there's a statute of limitation. He can't press charges now anyway.
Because A, y'all have been married too long, and B, there are kids that are turn up as witnesses and say, look, he did this and I can prove it. And I mean this jokingly, of course, being not only a husband but also a parent, but your kids will look at you and look at the husband and say, yep, he did it. And running joke that my wife and I do all the time. And you got to have humor in a marriage. You absolutely have to. So one of the running jokes that my wife and I do, and we do it all the time, if something happens where she drops something or something accidentally breaks, she'll just walk by me and said, it's your fault, right? And that's been our running joke for the 2 years we've been together.
Yeah. That's just something us men have to deal with. Okay, I get that too. It's my fault, and my daughter and wife will look at each other and shrug their shoulders, like, "What? Yeah, it's your fault." Okay.
We have that thing that we women can always go to default on and say, "Hey, you're the man of the house. It's your fault."
It's so true. Like I said, my wife teases me all the time with it, and something will happen in the house. I could be, and Vince, I know you've gone through this. I could be on the other side of the house doing something completely different, and my Dr. K will just walk by me and she'll show me something she dropped, and she just goes, this is your fault, right? And my brain's thinking, how? I'm on the other side of the house. Now I just look at her and go, I didn't do this one. She says, yes, you did, and I can prove it. I said, all right, prove it. And then she'll go, I don't have to prove it. And we'll both just start laughing.
Hey, like you said, you have to keep the humor.
You have to.
You definitely have to laugh, especially in these times. So, we just find any little thing and we can kind of laugh at it and keep the peace.
She's also my producer. She just yelled in my ear. She goes, "I'm always right, and you're always wrong." And I'm sitting there laughing about it because, again, and it brings up a very important point that we talk about all the time. You have to keep the humor in the relationship. You absolutely have to, because if you don't, the relationship will erode very quickly.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I think that people struggle with the most when they go into a relationship is at the beginning is because you're two separate individual people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to learn how to merge your relationship into one.
Mm-hmm.
And as an individual, we always want to be what? We always want to be right.
Right.
No matter what, you want to be the one who's the last woman or man standing. You want to be the one who was right. You want to be the one who knew the most.
Mm-hmm.
And in a relationship, and this goes more for the women than the men, sometimes I have to tell them, you have to decide, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah. And
pick one.
I decided.
Pick your battles.
Yeah. I decided I want to be happy. And after I met my Dr. K, I have been truly happy for the 2 years we've been together and the almost a year that we've been married. And it's not just about sense of humor. It's about a very simple / complex / most important thing in a relationship, a little word we like to call communication.
That's it. Communication, that's key.
It is key, because she and I talk about everything, and people think I exaggerate when I say this. I'm not exaggerating. We talk and discuss everything. We talk everything out, and you have to talk everything out with your partner, because if you can't talk everything out with your partner, then who the hell are you going to talk it out to? It just doesn't fit.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah, that works. Like, if you can't say that your partner is your best friend, and in the sense of not if that's the person that you're going to go get your hands and nails and everything done with, but if you can't say your partner is the best friend, then your relationship is not at a point where it should have been a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That is so true, because if you can't talk everything out, then there's your first problem. I've had people ask me all the time, how can you guys, even for the short time that you guys have been together, how can you guys smile most of the time? I said, I talk to her about everything, and I trust her enough, and vice versa. And she trusts me enough to, lean on each other. The biggest thing is with the communication, you also lean on each other. Good times, bad times, whatever time it is. When you have that, you have a very solid foundation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, you know your partner. You kind of get a vibe from them. If something, they don't even have to say it. You just know something's not right. You know what I mean? So I think that's a big thing. I can just tell when something's bothering her, and sometimes she'll need a minute to, for whatever it might be. But I just know. I mean, we'll kind of hash it out, and she'll let me in on what's going on. But you just know your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. You just know your partner.
It's so true when they need to talk to you. And something that I have been taught by my wife, she says it all the time. She says, sometimes I don't need you to fix anything. Sometimes I just need you to listen. And that was one of the most important things I had to learn with her. That's one of the most important things that I had to learn, because as men in this society, we're taught, and it's ingrained in us, okay, something's wrong with your partner, you have to fix it. No, sometimes they just need to get some stuff off their chest, and you just need to listen. That's a part I'm still learning, and I've gotten better at it. Will I ever be perfect at it? No, and I don't want to be. But when I get the clue and I see the look in her eyes, okay, I'm just going to shut up and I'm going to let her talk.
Yeah, we did a post, when was that, Wednesday last week?
Yeah.
And that's our number 10 was listen more and talk less.
Yes.
And that's exactly what we talked about. Sometimes your partner don't want you to say a word. Just listen. They'll let you know, if they want you to chime in, but just be quiet and listen.
Was it tough when you guys got together at such a young age to like really, really trust each other with decisions? I mean, how tough was it for you guys to trust each other with decisions and start making them together?
Ooh, I'm gonna.
I wouldn't say it was tough for me coming from a 2-parent household. For me, it wasn't tough because I saw how my mother handled her marriages, and I'll put Jiz because she's been married more than once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, I think 5.
Like Elizabeth Taylor, Elizabeth Taylor-ish.
Shirley Ann Jackson Coleman. Locke Johnson Sherwood knows how to get married. Y'all not gonna talk about my mother. But the one thing that my mother did instill in me was marriage was important. And yes, she was a strong, independent woman, but she also showed me that a strong, independent woman also needs a man to support her and be with her at all times. She needs that. That's what God intended this world and this relationship how to work.
Absolutely.
So man needs woman, woman needs man. So I did learn that from my mother, and I also learned how to share in decision making with my spouse because of how I saw my mother operate. And it was a challenge in the beginning because you are so independent. When I met my husband, we met in California, technically Tijuana partying, but that's a whole nother story. So we'll just skip the over the border part. We'll just talk about stateside part for now. So we met, like you said, young. I was already independent and had been living on my own since I was 18 because my mother left California, moved back to Texas the month I graduated high school. So I was living on my own. I worked for a prison system, so I knew what I wanted, how I wanted, what I wanted to do, and I knew what I didn't want. So when I finally met Vincent, I think I had been in a couple of relationships where I was like, look, I have to be able to let my guard down, and I'm still working on that, but to be able to trust somebody and allow them to help lead my direction. And for Vincent being in the military, and Vincent is an only child born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, raised by a strong, independent woman who didn't play yet either. I think he was able to learn how to work around my rough edges and not do that I am man beat on my chest thing, like woman listen to me. I think he knew early on that wasn't going to be the way that he was going to get to my heart or allow me to let down my walls. So as we dated a little longer and, we found out we were going to be expecting a baby and I didn't have the flu. Because I tell you, Corona was around in 1992. So just didn't tell you guys. I had all the symptoms.
Hey, being from Chicago, there is truth to every part of that sentence.
Right.
That's correct.
So yeah, it was I think a little easier for me, and I'll let Vincent speak on that because he was an only child. I think once he realized he had someone else depending on him making the best decisions, I think that's where he had to kind of pull in from his lifestyle and upbringing. How do we do this and how do we do this together?
Yeah. And like I said, us being young, military, so kind of, and we talk about this and laugh about it now. She would always say, like, her strategy was, and we would go on deployments, we would have to literally leave for 6 months. And then when we came back stateside, of course, all the fellas want to hang out. So what she would always do was, okay, everybody come over here. They'll always know the King's house. So we would always cook out. So I wouldn't really want to go out and hang out with the guys. So I can just bring everybody over. We cook out and just everybody knew the Kings, they can come and get fed well. So that was like her little strategy that she kind of put me onto that later. I'm like, you know what? That was pretty good. that worked out. That kept me from wanting to hang out. At 22 years old, we just bring everybody over, a lot of single people on the ships, and we would always cook and kind of like we had the place where everybody wanted to come and kind of away from home and they got home cooked meals and things of that sort.
Shirley Walker.
But it was a little more difficult for me, like you said, adjusting, just being the only child. So it was more difficult for me to adjust, I would say.
Shirley Walker King and Vince King joining me, talking all parts of marriage, good, bad, ugly, whatever. I got so many questions in my head, and as I said, I will be in June entering my second year of marriage. Y'all have been doing this a long time. I gotta pose this, and this is for both of you. When did you know that Vince to Shirley? When did you know that she would be the one for you? How did you? What was the bell that went off and said, "Okay, she's going to be here and she's going to be around for me and she's going to support me"? When did you know that she was the one?
That's for me, to Shirley. Mm-hmm. For me, oh wow, man! And that's funny because I always told myself that I wasn't doing this. Especially when I was in the military, right. And that was literally my first duty station. So I didn't even make it to the second duty station. So I don't know what I was thinking. So I guess God said, I have other plans for you, sir.
Yes.
But I don't know. I guess just us hanging out and talking and we used to go out to parties and see each other, and we would always just meet up, and it's just something when they say you know.
Yeah.
And I just knew if I was to leave California, it just didn't feel right. I just knew it was her. It's just funny. It just seems like I just knew. I just knew from just conversations. I just knew she was going to be the one that I really wanted to be with.
Shirley, same question to you. How'd you know Vince was the one?
For me, I think, and both of us were in that same boat where we both were kind of dating and young, and I always pictured myself with children, but it's ironic that I had never really pictured a husband.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't grow up thinking of the ideal wedding, of, planning a wedding and walking down the aisle and picking out a wedding dress. I didn't do that. And it's not that I wasn't a girly girl, because I was. Although I played basketball, I was the girl who went to the game dressed up. So it wasn't that, because some people try and say that, if you're a tomboy, you don't really think about that stuff. But I wasn't a tomboy as much as I was just, an active girl. But I didn't picture marriage per se. But for Vincent, he was different for me. And, like I said, I grew up in San Diego, California, so I had been dating since I probably was 16, dating guys, whether my mom knew about it or not. But I think one of the first, when we met, Vincent said he saw me first. Vincent saw me before I saw him. Let me give a little background. But his friend approached me before he did. And so that whole weekend in California, if anybody's from California, they know you can party from Sunday to Sunday. They were having an event that next day, and we all went to a beach party, and, his friend was still trying to talk to me and wanted to give me his jacket so that I wouldn't be cold. And I was like, no, I don't want your jacket. For one, I don't want you branding me. There's too many ouches out here. Hold on now. But Vincent and I really didn't connect until that night, I think, when we went out to a club. And so we were talking, and I just liked the way that he had a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. He actually wanted to get to know you. It wasn't just about collecting phone numbers and, just trying to see whose pants he can get in. And if it was, his game wasn't obvious. I'll put it that way. And as he mentioned, he was in the military, so they had to go out to sea for 30 days, like maybe 2 weeks after we met.
Yeah.
And then Vincent actually got in trouble maybe right after you guys come back from that deployment. So this was within like the 60 days, within 90 days, I didn't see him for at least 60. But Vincent, and he didn't know where I lived, but he somehow got my address. And this was before social media and internet.
Yeah.
And he sent me a card from home because he had to go home for an emergency for something. And that's when I was like, okay, he is definitely something different and something new. And I kind of knew I just knew he was special. Yeah. Didn't necessarily know he was going to be the one, but I knew he was special.
I tell you what, with me, when I met Jody, we met in July of 2018, and I was a month away from beginning my new broadcast season. And it took till week 3 of that season. It was a Saturday afternoon when I called her, and I heard I was in the booth doing a football game. And I said, you know what? I'm going to have a little fun. Now, folks, this is one of the few times I will share this. And guys will be inventive to a point. And I said, I've never made a first call to a young lady I was interested in while on the air. I told myself, and Vince, you identify, you keep telling yourself, guys keep telling themselves, I'm not going to do this. I looked at her number and I said, screw it. I dialed her number, opened the phone, and I put it in my headset, and then I heard her voice. I finished 2 play-by-play sequences, and I heard her laugh. And it's the strangest thing. When I heard her laugh, my stomach did a flip-flop because there were butterflies in it. And I said, oh, yeah, this is it. So I went to a break, and she just said, wow, I never had a call like this. And I said, me neither, but I love your voice and I love listening to you. And we haven't stopped talking for almost 2 years.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. You just knew it.
I knew it.
You got that feeling.
I absolutely knew it, especially when she started coming to games with me. And she said, I want to be in the booth with you. So week 7, I was at Portage, and it always it's a cliche to a lot of people, but this is true to guys like Vince and myself. You can pick your partner out of a crowd, and there was a big crowd coming to Portage, and I saw Dr. K walk in, and I said, okay, the world's right now. She's here. I can put this headset on and I can roll through this broadcast because my pillar of support and the love of my life just walked in the house. And I was good.
Right. Well, you know what? And I'm a little slower than she is. I did just have a birthday on the 6th.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. You know what? Excuse me. One of the main things I laugh about is, well, I think I would say, and I did say I just knew. Well, I think it was a time we went out when we were dating, and when the bill came, she paid for the plate. I said, oh, my God. Because, it's just automatic. The guy pays, and, when you're married, it's different. It doesn't matter, man. It's the same card. Hey,
it is.
That was that was a big deal. I was like, wow, she paid, for the plate.
Yeah.
So that just took it to another level.
And I remember that because I remember you asking me, well, why are you paying for it? And I said, because I asked you to go out to the movies on this round. And I think it was dinner. I said, if I asked you to go out, then I should be able to pay for it. And so I remember having that conversation. He was like, I don't think I've ever had anybody pay for a date.
Right.
And I was like, well, I don't think you've ever dated anybody like me.
I tell you what, one of the weeks, where we drove from Terre Haute to Michigan City, she finds things that just make me smile. And it was October. It was toward the end of the regular season. And she said, stop by Walgreens. I want to find something for you. I said, okay. So we stopped by Walgreens. She got some snacks for me. She got me a couple bottles of water, and she knows how much water I drink, especially when I'm on the air. So she comes out with a couple bottles of water, and I reach into the bag from Walgreens, and there, I swear to God, was football candy corn. There were different kinds of candy corn in football shapes. And I said, where'd you find this? She says, I found it in Walgreens. Let's go to the ball game, and watch Michigan City win. I said, she found this for me. Now,
the
little things mean the largest things to me. Now, I will tell this funny story. The first time I attempted, and I strongly stress the word attempted, to drive from Michigan City to Terre Haute, I was in Maryville. And I did a game in Maryville, and I had no water. They had nothing but caffeine in the form of Pepsi. And I said, now what do I do? If I drink more than one Pepsi, I am in serious trouble. I said, the heck with it. So, yeah, Michigan City scored 42 points, and they won the game, and I'm working off of 5 or 6 Pepsis. And she picked me up, and she said, why don't you drive back to Terre Haute? Yeah, I didn't make it far. She even went. We even stopped at a store and said, do you need some sugar for the ride? Because it's about a 3-hour drive. I said, yeah. So she brings out some Reese's sticks, and I still didn't make it. I don't think I made it a good 10 miles before my body said, we're done. We're shutting down, whether you like it or not. And she saw it. She says, come over here. You'll get some sleep, and I'll drive back to Terre Haute. And we've been sharing driving duties since. And she knows me so very well. And I find it wonderful that she takes care of me just as much as I take care of her. That's like one of the sweetest things. In my eyes, that's one of the sweetest things.
And that's what a relationship is about, whether you're at the point of marriage or not. But once you're into a relationship that you know is going to go somewhere, that's what you want to do. You want to take care of your partner.
Yes.
That's what makes a relationship work, is he wants what's best for me just as much as I want what's best for me, and I want what's best for him just as much as he wants what's best for him. I'll put his needs before mine, and he'll put my needs before his.
Right.
That's a marriage.
That's absolutely a marriage. She looked me in the eye and said, I want you to chase your dreams as a broadcaster. But then when she found out and figured out what she really wanted to do, which was be a health coach, be a life coach rather, and she looked at me and we talked about it, and she says, what do you think? I really want to do this. I said, dive in and go for it. So that's right. That's just natural. That's just so natural. And she said to me so many times, I've never had anybody support me like this. I said, you don't have to ask twice. If you found something you love to do, dive in head first and go for it.
And that's what makes a marriage work. You put the needs of your spouse before yours. Of course, in a healthy relationship. Don't get it twisted.
Very healthy relationship.
When it's a mutual, healthy relationship, you want what's best for your partner just as much or more than they do.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. I got to have these two on again, and I'd love to have you guys so we can do an episode of Snowman Unfiltered where we go longer than this, but we're coming up against the break. That's Shirley Walker King and her husband Vince King talking all things marriage. And folks, this may be a sports show, but I sneak in little stuff like this to help the show go along. Thank you both for joining me. I'd love to have you back on for a longer episode, and I truly mean that.
Oh yeah, we're down for that. And remember, this is still sports, because this is a sports marriage. You know, both of us are former basketball players. Don't get it twisted again.
Right.
She's semi-pro. You know, I played in the military, but you know, she's semi-pro. But hey.
I love it.
But anytime.
Thank you both so much for coming on. We got a break. I will talk to y'all in a deuce.
can't do it. We'll do it live. Okay. Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Time to rise and grind.
Are you kidding me? Holy un smoke!
And let's get this banter going.
It's bacon!
This is Snowman in the Morning.
Does anybody else feel like a fried egg?
And it begins now.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell,
I think I just broke my chair.
He did what?
Has anybody ever told you you have a serious impulse control problem?
There is but one cause for me to follow. Almighty the bum!
And here we go.
Oh, yeah!
And that's hit pretty well and pretty deep to left. Gardner is going back, looking up. See you later!
You golden blank staggered black skeleton and blinkety blank bunker you trying to do of all that low dirty...
Michael on the drive across the lane. Turnaround shot. Got it. 63 for Jordan.
Do you believe it?
Murphy picked it out of midair to Amani. Set him up, Roenick. Hawks win! Hawks win! Hawks win! Jeremy Roenick! After the giveaway was forced by Amani. What a play by Tony Amani! And Jeremy Roenick fired it home at the 123 mark. And the Blackhawks have come back from the dead in this series.
Hour 3. So I was talking with a buddy of mine, and he said, I have a guest for you that I know you'd love. I said, really? Who is it? Well, he put the Ohio State University and inaugural Houston Texans team same sentence. He wore number 28 for said Buckeyes, and he was one of the first to play under Coach Jim Tressel when they went into the Big House. And I know I'm talking to a Buckeye, and I know not to say that school's name, and they beat them. Look, I'm from Chicago, so I know the rules of the Big Ten Conference. The number 10, not TEN. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome former Ohio State Buckeye and one of the first draft picks of the Houston Texans from 2002, Mr. Jonathan Wells. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you for having me on the show, buddy.
I appreciate you coming on to the show. And as you and I are both Big Ten folks, we have a common denominator. Even though you played at Ohio State, the team I support is Northwestern, we have a very common denominator. That school up north gets no love from us.
None at all. we definitely agreed there.
There's something about that school up north that drives me absolutely. I don't like them as a fan or as a journalist. If I'm making it into the Big House, that's different. But as far as liking them, no, can't do it.
They're all right, man. They, like I said, I kind of grew into this love-hate situation with them because you got to remember I'm not from Ohio originally. So actually, when I was in high school, my mentor Chris Howard, who was a national championship running back there,
right.
We played at the same high school. So I had a lot of love for the school. I never thought about going there, but I didn't hate them like everybody else who grew up in Ohio did. Now, once I stepped foot on campus, it was immediate. It didn't take me long to understand that we don't rock with those guys, period.
I used to live in Columbus, and I was warned. My friend told me no matter how long you live there, you will grow a hatred for that school up north. And I've moved around all over the place, and I'm going, nah, that can't happen that fast. It happened that fast.
Yeah, it's instantaneous. Now, there's still a few traders that live within the state of Ohio, especially around that Toledo area where we know what's going on with that. But there's still a few haters, man, in Columbus. And I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what would make you just go against the grain like this? I just don't get it.
The year they won it all, 2002, I had so many friends there, and the weeks kept going by, and folks were waiting for the other shoe to drop. Of course, everyone in Buckeye Nation remembers Holy Buckeye from 2002, the miracle win at Purdue. You stopped that school up north 14-9 to close the season. And I remember Brett Musburger's famous call where he said, "Let's party, Columbus." I cannot tell you how much I was pulling for Ohio State to win it all, because I've never seen them do it. But then
right, exactly.
The double overtime happened in Tempe, Arizona, and C. Grant made the final play that sealed that national championship for Coach Jim Tressel and company. And it was a party after that.
Listen, let me tell you, I was at that game. I was on the sidelines, and when I tell you that I was so exhausted after the game, I felt like I had played 2 games that night.
Yes.
I mean, I can remember vividly. I was me, Eddie George, Raymond Harris. We're all on the sideline, kneeling, arms crossed for that last play. And when we got that sack and that ball went in the air, we lost our everlasting minds, man. What a great memory. Yeah, what a great memory. I mean, when I was a rookie in the league, so you got to remember, I had already bet all of the guys on my team that went to the team up north. I can't. Actually, after we beat the team up north, I came into the team meeting that night, and I had a big old bag of Tostitos chips, and they was like, "Man, you doing too much." They like, "You doing too much, Jay Weezy. Come on, man, knock it off."
Oh, you know what's wild? This is. What got me to be a Northwestern fan was when they beat Notre Dame in 1995.
Okay.
That got me being a Northwestern fan because they were a 28-point underdog, and they beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame Stadium 17-15. And then Penn State came up later in the season, School Up North came later in the season, and I had a bet with a friend of mine. This is one of the few times I did not root for Ohio State, and it was very personal. I had a friend of mine who said to me, Ohio State is going into the Big House, and they're going to beat that school up north, and we're going to win the Big Ten title, so I feel so sorry for your Wildcats. I said, oh, yeah, I'm willing to bet you that doesn't happen. And immediately my brain is going, what the hell are you thinking?
Well, guess what? You were right on point, Mike. Listen, I wasn't even at the school. I was still a sophomore in high school.
Right.
And I was sick with Tim Biakamatuka went out there and went crazy. I was like, are you kidding me? 300 plus.
300 plus. Look, I couldn't even pronounce Tim Biakamatuka correctly, and I've tried for years, okay? It's got people to this day saying, who the hell is Tim Biakamatuka? And what's he up to?
He left his mark. He left his mark. He is forever a legend.
Yes.
And he was going against Eddie George that day. And
yeah.
My goodness, I was sick. I was sick.
There were that year, 1995, there were 3 great running backs in that conference, and they were intertwined all season. Biakamatuka being one, Eddie George being the second, and the third, who was the rushing leader for Northwestern, Darnell Autry. So people were asking, well, they knew who Eddie George was. That was obvious.
Mm-hmm.
They were asking, who the hell is Tim Biakamatuka? And for that matter, who the hell is this Darnell Autry kid?
Exactly. Yeah. That was a great season. They had a great year that year for sure.
Yeah. It was a wonderful, wonderful season. Talking with Jonathan Wells, a graduate of The Ohio State University. You got to take me through that national championship game, watching those players coming back against Miami, getting basically a second chance in overtime. They get the tying touchdown, and they had to move back 5 yards due to a penalty for the extra point. And when it went through the window, you just heard the entire state of Arizona just exhale. 77,000 plus. Most of that, they just exhaled when that extra point went through to force the second overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, man, it was exciting. Man, I like I said, just because, you know, like I said, I was a part of Jim Tressel's first year at Ohio State.
Right.
So to see how far that we came in only 2 years, you know, for my senior year was his first year. So, you know, when we went 7-5, you know, we lost 3 games where we had 17-0 lead against Wisconsin. They came back and beat us. We were up 27-9 versus Penn State in the second half. They came back and beat us. We lost a lot of close games, you know, that senior year. But those losses were what actually fueled those guys the next year, because they learned how to win those close games. And that's the difference between my senior year and that next year. Mike Dawson, Will Smith, rest in peace, and, you know, Craig Krenzel stepped in, did a phenomenal job. Maurice Corrette came in. So these guys, they understood, you know, what it took to win those close games, because we had lost so many of them the year before. So that's how we got over the hump. So for us to get to the national championship and be playing against, you know, what was arguably one of the best teams ever to play in college football in the history of the game, you know, one of my childhood friends, Ed Reed, we played playground ball together, you know, so to be across the sideline looking at them, and, you know, they had about 100 former players. We was deep on the Ohio State sideline. I mean, it was absolutely intense in there.
I
man.
bet it was. I bet it was.
Yeah, that whole situation, man, to come out on top and actually, you know, win the first championship in 39 years, and actually be there and be a part of it. I mean, man, you can't even draw that up any better. You know, like later on, Coach Tressel wrote me a letter and said, you know, that my leadership, you know, in the year before is actually what led to that championship. And I tell you, I hold that letter from Jim Tressel near and dear to my heart, because I worked hard my senior year. You know, I put the boots on the ground. I bought all the way into the Coach Tressel way, and I tried to lead those guys as best as I could. So I know that I left a good DNA in there, and those boys took it the next year and went all the way to the top. So I'm extremely happy about that.
I loved Tressel's speech when he was introduced at the Schottenstein Center.
Yeah, the basketball game. Yeah, oh yeah.
All he had to say was, and in 310 days from now, and he didn't even have to finish his sentence, and the whole place went nuts.
Yeah, Ann Arbor, Michigan. Oh yeah, he said it. Yeah, he said the word. He might have just said Ann Arbor. But
we're Ann Arbor.
That's an epic speech that'll go down in history for sure.
Man, it will, and so will that team, and so will Tressel. Jonathan Wells joining me here. Now let's take me through the process of when and how you got drafted to be a part of the inaugural team in Houston when the Houston Texans were born. Take me through that.
Oh man, I have so many feelings about just my whole draft process, some of the decisions that I made, and as I sit back and look on it now, you know, just even my decision to go back home and train to get ready for the draft was one of the worst decisions that I ever made in my life. I should have never went back home to New Orleans. You know, my agent had just, you know, given me $100,000. I never had no money before in my life. And I just really, I wasn't even really focused like I needed to be going into getting drafted. I'll keep it all the way real, looking back on it.
Right.
But nevertheless, you know, I ended up going 99th overall to a new franchise. To be honest with you, I was pissed. I was mad. I thought that I should have got drafted a lot higher after coming off, you know, 1,300 plus yards. You know, in the Big Ten, basically facing 8 or 9 in the box because we had no passing game that year whatsoever. So I felt like I was, you know, one of the top 3 to 5 backs in the country, and ended up going 99th overall. So I was a little disappointed. You know, my draft day was terrible. I had a draft party at my house, didn't get drafted. You know, back then, you know, it was only 2 days.
Yes.
You know, so I had the media, I had all my family, all people from the neighborhood come to the house, and I didn't get drafted. So you can only imagine that I was distraught after that. So I ended up being the very first pick of the next day. The 99th was the first pick of the next day. So I didn't have to wait long, you know, which was a blessing. But I was mad, man, you know. So I went to Houston with a chip on my shoulder. Now, what I can say is Houston was a state-of-the-art, first-class organization. Rest in peace to Bob McNair. I mean, everything about Houston was phenomenal. I have no quarrels with the organization, the facilities, Just everything was first class. You know what I mean? So now, as I look back on it, do I wish I maybe would have got drafted to a more established franchise where I could have, went in and learned maybe? Probably so. But, to go in there, I ended up starting, 10 games my rookie year, leading the team in rushing, so being first leading rusher in franchise history. And, I had a phenomenal time in the city of Houston, man. The city of Houston was great. Oh, my goodness. We had a ball. They showed us so much love in Houston. So, overall, man, it was cool. But as I look back on it, I could have been a lot more focused, and I could have, just did some things better. But, neither here nor there.
Yeah.
That's how it worked out.
Yeah. If you could change one thing that would have made the process better, what would be that thing and why?
Like I said, I would have went somewhere where I was way too comfortable at home, trying to get ready for the draft. I would have definitely. What happened was we actually lost our strength coach, Coach Dave Kennedy, at Ohio State. He ended up leaving the year Tressel came.
Yeah.
So normally all of our guys, we stay there and we work out with Coach K. But we ended up calling Coach K. He was at the University of Nebraska. I forgot where he went. But he was like, man, I'm kind of like, trying to do some new things, man. Y'all going to have to figure it out. So he didn't allow us to train with him. So my next move was, okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to train with Tom Shaw, which is a phenomenal strength coach.
Mm-hmm.
So if I would have even took that serious, I would have did a lot better in my pro day as well. But that would have been my only thing, man. I just would have went somewhere where I didn't know anybody. I would have went somewhere where I could have just focused 100% on training. And I went to New Orleans, man, and got into partying and just doing a whole bunch of other stuff that had nothing to do with getting ready for the draft.
Yeah, Jonathan Wells joining me here, the man a part of the Ohio State University under Coach Jim Tressel. One more point, and you got to take me through this. Being a part of the Big Ten, knowing you had to go into the big house, and being labeled as the team that broke the curse.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through that week and take me through that Saturday.
Well, I got to go back a little bit before that. Now, mind you, when I came in '98, we smashed them. Like
yes.
David Boston, Joe Jermaine, Mike Wiley. I mean, we embarrassed them in the horseshoe.
Yeah.
So for me, like I said, I wasn't from there, so I never had this we can't beat them mentality. I didn't care about it. I thought they sucked from day one.
Right.
So as I moved into my sophomore year, I ended up having 3 carries for 90 yards in the big house.
Mm-hmm.
So my second carry was a 76-yard run, one of the prettiest spin moves you ever see. But I ended up not scoring. I got caught on the 5-yard line. The guy tripped me on the 5.
Yep.
I didn't score, and we ended up not getting any points. Now, mind this, Tom Brady was the quarterback. We missed the field goal. Tom Brady was the quarterback. We were up by 7 before I made that run. If I score, we go up by 14.
Right.
And I think we win that. And I think we win that game. I don't score. We go 3 and out. Miss the field goal. Tom Brady comes back and he beats us by 7. Okay. So
the legend of Tom Brady begins.
I held this within myself for the next 2 years. I could not wait to get back up there and finish what I started. So skipping to my senior year, we went back up there. Like I said, we were 7-4 or 6-4 going into the game. And, we had lost a lot of close games. Now, mind you, the week before, my quarterback gets suspended for a DUI, so he's not going to play. My starter, he doesn't play in the game, Steve Bellisori. So that's how Craig Krenzel ends up getting his first start up there. So I basically just told Tress, man, listen, put it on me, because I was in the zone at this point. Like I had 7 back-to-back 100-yard games. Like I'm ready now. Like I'm at the top of my game. Everything is finally lined up for me in my college.
Right.
I'm like, Coach, man, give it to me. Put it on me. Don't trip. I got you. He's like, all right, J-Dub, let's go. So he comes out. The defense is just crazy. I gotta give a shout out to my defense that day, 2001. Will Smith, Darius Scott, who else was on that defense? Mike Doss, Matt Wilhelm, Derek Ross. Those boys played lights out football out there that game. So I got to give a shout out to my defense first and foremost. But offensively, man, we pretty much ran 2 and 3 tight ends. Like student body right, student body left.
Yep.
We're not passing. This is what it is. It's J-Dub versus y'all. Man, Coach Tressel. Now, mind you, I never got the ball more than 22 times a game in college.
Right.
He comes out and gives it to me 25 times in the first half.
Yep.
I got 129 yards going into halftime. I got 3 touchdowns on the board already.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'm about to pull a Tim Diakamaduka on these boys. I'm about to kill them here today. Bro, my first carry of the second half, I get the carry, 7-yard squirt. Now, mind you, I could have popped that one. My calf just gives out on me. I'm like, what? And I grab my legs. I'm like, are you kidding me? Dude, I was trying to stand up. My second calf cramps up. They had to come get me off the field. My hamstring starts cramping. My stomach. Dude, I got full body cramps. I had 1 carry in the second half of that game and went to the locker room and had to get IVs for the rest of the game pretty much. I didn't make it back out of the locker room until about 3-4 minutes left in the game. So that game is still a bittersweet moment for me because we were up 23-0 at halftime because I had the 3 touchdowns in the first half.
Right.
But I didn't play in the second half. That's what a lot of people don't understand. I played 1 play in the second half. That's it. And I was in the locker room getting IVs. So that is still a bittersweet moment for me, and I thank God we were able to hold them off and beat them 26-20. Because if they had come back and beat us, I wouldn't have been able to live with that, bro.
Right.
So, you know, that day, as special as it was, and the 3 touchdowns in the first half, that's cool. But, man, I was going for over 250 yards on them people that day. Like, they could not tackle me that day, period.
They couldn't.
And my body gave out on me, bro. So, you know, I still hate it. I still hate it till this day.
I still hate it. I totally understand. A little bit of insight to Big Ten football, not just from a journalist perspective, but from a player's perspective. Jonathan Wells, one of the inaugural draft picks of the Houston Texans and a prior graduate of the Ohio State University. And you better believe I plan to have this man on a lot more to talk some more football and to talk some more life lessons. Man, this was fantastic. Thanks for coming on, my friend. I look forward to having you on again.
Okay, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
I got more stuff for you after this. There, how about a little trivia? Okay. All right. Here's a question. Who was the last men's most outstanding player in the NCAA men's national championship game that came from a losing team? Give you the answer after this. All right. I kept you hanging long enough. Here's the answer to our question. Who was the last player to be named NCAA men's most outstanding player in a championship game on a losing team? You have to go back to the pit in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The year was 1983, and the name that you'll find, a Hall of Famer we like to call Akeem Olajuwon. The show resumes after these.
Snowman in the Morning.
Holy on snow!
Where true sports talk lives.
I like him. He's silly.
I put a rumor out there that Anthony Davis will not remain in Los Angeles, and the backlash that I got for that is unprecedented. And I stick with my convictions. Anthony Davis is going home after this season. Here to help me break this down, Sharif Ahmed of Sharif Ahmed Sports Talk. How are you, my friend?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. The podcast that I dropped last week talking LeBron got some pretty unfavorable reviews. I don't care. I stick with my convictions that he's an incomplete player if he doesn't have help. And speaking of that particular help, the hired hand he wanted was one Anthony Davis. I'm sorry, I hate to tell Laker fans this, or more to the point, I hate to tell LeBron fans this, but Anthony Davis is nothing but a one-year rental.
He is. Well, let me just give you a couple nuggets here. At the end of this season, Anthony Davis is going to have a $28 million option, which he's going to decline, which makes him eligible as a free agent. And the thing is that there has been a lot of talk about him going back home. And you touched on the young lineup that the Bulls have, that is a very promising lineup. And for him to go back home and surround himself in the Eastern Conference. Secondly, he's going to be surrounded by very, very young talent, which, by the way, they're going to still be under the rookie contract for at least another season.
Yep.
And the Chicago Bulls, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Chicago Bulls are one of the teams that have a lot of cap space.
They do.
And on top of that, go ahead.
And they just hired a new GM. John Paxson stepped down. And they just hired a new GM from Denver. So you talk about someone that's been in the role, and he helped build the Denver Nuggets to their close to prominence right now. You have a young guard with Kobe White. You got a sharpshooter in Lauri Markkanen, who also has a post game, LeBron fans, by the way. And then they're going to do all they can to not only keep the young talent, but bring one of their own home.
Exactly. And another tidbit, too, Otto Porter is now a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And that contract that Otto Porter had was absolutely atrocious.
It is.
He was getting paid $26, $27 million, and the guy couldn't even play 40 to 45 games in a season. So now, with that being said, that spreads out a lot of cap space for him. Just imagine, okay, I'm just going to go down the roster. They have Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, Lauri Markkanen, Wendell Carter Jr. I mean, just that alone, and then you can add in a Anthony Davis to that roster, and I can't say this guy's name. I think his name is Thomas Satoransky.
Thomas Satoransky.
Thomas Satoransky is a 6'6", 6'7" point guard, too, who can also play multiple guard positions. And then to also add another player to the roster, Thaddeus Young, who's still on the roster. He can be used as a trade deadline. They can trade him and try to get some value in return. So Chicago is the ideal place.
Yes.
For Anthony Davis to go to. And on top of that, you're going to have a GM who's already made a name for himself, like you said, in Denver, can get some players to go to Chicago, which is not a bad free agent destination.
It isn't.
And you can have a team surrounding Anthony Davis, and they're all under the age of 30.
And what's crazy Anthony Davis is so familiar with Chicago. I mean, he won the All-Star game, for God's sakes. Where did he win it? In the United Center. That was like the finishing touch for me. And I've had so many people say to me, and I know they've said to you, that Anthony Davis is going to remain with the Lakers. Why would he remain in that toilet? This is the only term I can come up with. Yes, they're number one in the West, and the season will be finished, my friends. Just bear with us now. The season will be finished. The Lakers are going to come up short of a title. The Bucks are going to come up short of a title. Anthony Davis wants to go home, and home is Chicago. And the Bulls, I believe, behind the scenes, are going to prepare a multi-year deal that Anthony Davis, listen to me carefully, should have gotten in New Orleans.
Yes, but the only thing about being in New Orleans, he was in the Western Conference.
Right.
There was no way that if he would have remained in New Orleans, or if he remains in the Western Conference, he's not going to win a title there. Because that LA Laker roster is going to be decimated with free agents.
Yep.
And all those players
are all leaving. Yeah. And they're all leaving.
Yeah. If Davis leaves, I'm not saying if, he will leave.
Mm-hmm.
Then now the Lakers have to start from scratch again and build around LeBron. So you're going to have Rajon Rondo as the point guard. The guy you and I can probably shoot better than him. You have Avery Bradley at the shooting guard, who can't, Avery Bradley at the number 2. He sneezes. He's on the injured list for 6 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You got JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard, who plays the exact same way and play of the post position, which now the post position is now irrelevant.
Yep.
And the only players I can probably think of off the top of my head that are going to be guaranteed for next year is probably Danny Green, maybe?
Danny
LeBron,
Green.
and that's it?
Mm-hmm. Because Kyle Kuzma's leaving. Kyle Kuzma's getting out of there.
And Kuzma, Kuzma, why should he stay?
He's got no reason to stay because he's been thrown under the bus 3 separate times by LeBron.
Correct.
3 times.
Correct. And we all know LeBron doesn't like young talent. He does not like to work with young talent. And also, too, they have a very young and very talented 3-4 in Giannis' little brother, Kostas. And Kostas. I can't say that Giannis is. Yes. Now his contract is up, but it's a restricted contract.
Mm-hmm.
And someone's gonna pay him the money that he wants, and the Lakers are not gonna budge because LeBron is the general manager. He's not gonna want that kid there.
Of course, he wants him out. He wants all the young talent gone, which means Kostas is gonna bite the dust. Kyle Kuzma is gonna bite the dust. Anybody that's not a shooter that can pattern his game to LeBron's game is gone. Look at what happened in Cleveland when Kevin Love arrived. Kevin Love was Anthony Davis, only healthier. He arrives in Cleveland, injuries happen, and Kevin Love had to adjust his game to fit LeBron's. Big mistake.
He did not adjust his game. He had to change his game.
Right.
When he was in Minnesota, he was averaging 21, 22, 13, 14 boards a night.
Yes.
But then when he went to Cleveland, he still had a power forward body, and they're expecting him to play a 3.5 small forward position.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where injuries arose because he had to drop the weight.
Yep.
His lower body couldn't take the weight with the speed of the 3s and the 4s that were running up and down the court. And then finally he adjusted himself and he became that stretch 4, and then his numbers completely dipped.
Yes.
So, but not going away from Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is the number 1 free agent out there, and the only teams that are going to go after him is Chicago and the Lakers. And again, Chicago just has that capital, man. They got the capital. They got the young talent.
They've got the scenery. They've got the situation. not Philadelphia, not Boston, and certainly not the Nets. And we'll touch on the Nets here in a couple of moments. Chicago could be and can be a real free agent destination for a few people, but the biggest name out there is Anthony Davis.
He's the big fish, and there's a lot of free agents out there. I mean, we can talk about it, but that should be for another time. There's a lot of free agents out there, solid free agents out there that can make teams better. But yeah, Davis is a big fish in the pond. And
I'll say it again. People have said to me that say they know Laker management or are familiar with Laker management that they're going to sign Anthony Davis to a multi-year deal. They don't have the space financially. They do not have the space to do so because not only do you have to pay LeBron, you got Danny Green for a couple of years, you got Rajon Rondo for a couple of years, and all of that equals no space for the Lakers to re-sign Anthony Davis.
I totally agree. I mean, I shouldn't say Laker fans. I'm just going to call them LeBron-maniacs. These LeBron-maniacs do not understand that team is one injury away from going from a 1 seed to a 5 seed,
if not lower.
Let's make that clear.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers do not have a backup plan. They do not have a second unit that is solid. The Clippers have a second unit that is solid.
Mm-hmm.
That second unit from the Clippers can be probably a 5, 6, 7, or an 8 seed in the East without Kawhi and Paul George. Let's be real.
Easy.
But the thing is, though, they're just so hypnotized. They're so brainwashed for things that he is doing. But what happens when you pull him away, like what happened last year? So, I mean, now they're talking about giving them an NBA title to them because they had the best regular season record. That's not. I think the Bucks were up there. I don't know what they're going to do.
The Bucks had the best regular season record. The Bucks had the best regular season record. The Lakers hadn't even reached 50 wins.
Well, they're already wanting them to give them the title. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't want to talk about LeBron. You get me started.
I think both of us got started. Yeah. I'll tell you another situation that's gaining some traction, and I think it's going to wind up being a stupid situation. You already have a situation brewing in Brooklyn with Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and Durant has not played 1 minute this year, and he won't because of his injury. Now, and you brought this to my attention, now they want to add, of all players, Joel Embiid? What?
I'm gonna disagree with you on this one. I think it's going to work.
You think so?
Yes, and here's why.
Okay.
Let's just talk about the trade. Let's just talk about the trade that's rumored to go out for Embiid. The Nets are willing to trade Jarrett Allen, Karis LeVert, and 2 first-round picks to the Sixers for Joel Embiid. Now, look, the thing is it's a number thing. I think they also wanted Spencer Dinwiddie, those 3 players and multiple picks. And the reason why it's going to work is because it's a money move. Because LeVert is going to be making $16 million next year. Spencer is making about $11 this year.
Yeah.
And Jarrett Allen, who is a legitimate rim protector.
True.
He's one of the league leaders in blocks. He's right under $4 million. So then by bringing in Embiid is making $27-28 million right off the cusp.
Yep.
So just by going by the numbers, it looks like the Sixers the Nets are giving them are trading away a lot more salary space to bring in Embiid.
Right.
So now we're bringing in Embiid and plus the salary cap going up next year, I think to 132 or 133.
132.
That gives them more flexibility to try to bring in role players with that. Now, the reason why I say this works, it's all going to come down to the head coach. And these 3 head coaches are the only 3 head coaches in the NBA that the Nets need to hire that will make this work. Because you have 3 personalities in that locker room that by NBA standards is considered toxic, but there's only 3 coaches that can handle that locker room. And I'm going to throw these coaches' names out for you really quick. Tyronn Lue. Tyronn Lue won a world is an NBA champion as a player and a coach.
And a coach, yeah.
And he was in that locker room with LeBron and Kyrie.
Yes.
The second name is David Fizdale.
I can see that.
David Fizdale, as you know, was the assistant coach with the Miami Heat when they won those 2 in Miami.
Yes.
You and I can both agree he got bamboozled in Memphis.
He did.
You and I can both agree on that Fizdale got bamboozled with the Knicks.
Yes, he did.
I know if you put him at the top as the head coach, he can handle that. And the last one that we talked on too, I think JB Bickerstaff should also be looked at as well.
I believe that. I agree with that.
Bickerstaff, I'm telling you, every time there's a coach fired, they call on this man. This man goes up in there, finishes the season with winning records. And it blows me away that Bickerstaff doesn't get a gig.
Except when it's an interim gig.
Right. But this man has proven time and time again, Bickerstaff has proven time and time again that he doesn't fix a sinking ship. He plugs the holes, but is never given the opportunity to try to fix the ship.
Or build one.
Correct.
Or build one.
So you're absolutely correct. If those 3 guys, those 3 head coaches are not the head coach next year and they bring Embiid in that trade, then the Nets are not going to be able to succeed.
Yeah. Here's a question.
Uh-huh.
Does JB Bickerstaff fit in Chicago?
Yes. I think that would be any of these coaches that I've named should be a head coach next year.
Yes. I think JB Bickerstaff would be the perfect fit for the Bulls. I really believe that.
Yep, and the coach, and in the eyes of coaching ranks, he's young. He has an incredible coaching pedigree with his father,
Bernie Bickerstaff.
His father won, I think, a couple championships with the Sonics back in the 70s. Very well respected.
And was the coach of the Sonics when they upset Houston in '87. Bernie Bickerstaff can coach, so can JB Bickerstaff.
So those are the 3 names right there for Brooklyn if they want to make some kind of a push out in the East, because the East is pretty weak right now. We could all agree with that.
Yeah.
But you say it doesn't work. I think it can work. The only way it's going to work if they bring one of those 3 head coaches to lead that team. If they don't, I have to agree with you.
I agree with that. They need a coaching mind. They had one in Kenny Atkinson, but he got run out of Brooklyn. He got run out of Brooklyn because he actually had some standards, and he coaches his way. He needed to cater to the players, but he didn't. He actually taught defense. Okay, because Kenny Atkinson was actually playing his role as the coach. That's why he got bumped out of there. That's why Kyrie and KD were complaining. But I totally agree with the 3 names you put out there in Tyronn Lue, Bernie Bickerstaff, and David Fizdale. One of those 3, I believe, will end up in Chicago next year. And my vote is JB Bickerstaff.
I can see that happening too. These 3 guys shouldn't be walking the streets for very long. If some front office or some owner can look into that, because these guys, especially Tyronn Lue and Fizdale, because they have been in playoff locker rooms.
Right.
They have been in championship locker rooms. I mean, Fizdale was with LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh when handling those personalities. And Tyronn Lue was, a player, won I think 1 or 2 rings with the Lakers, and one as a coach. Yeah, so they need that type of presence, because the players today's players will look at them and say, "What have you done?" Mm-hmm. So when they look at Tyronn Lue, he's one of the very few coaches out there that actually won as a player and as a coach. Respect. Fizdale got 2 rings with the Heat. Respect.
Yep.
JB Bickerstaff, pedigree, fixing a problem. Players talk.
Yes.
So these three coaches they better be employed as a head coach somewhere.
Yeah. And I totally I agree with all 3 of those names. The pedigree of all 3 of these guys merits them a job alone, especially with A, David Fizdale, because of his 2 championships in Miami, and B, JB Bickerstaff, because of the pedigree not only with him but with his dad, Bernie Bickerstaff. But I understand why you're bringing Tyronn Lue into this. Which one of those 3 would fit in Brooklyn the best? Would it be Fizdale, Bickerstaff, or Tyronn Lue? My inkling would be Fizdale.
I would go, if I had to go 1, 2, 3, I'd go Tyronn Lue first, Fizdale 2, and Bickerstaff 3 in Brooklyn.
Okay. So why do you think Tyronn Lue would be the best fit in Brooklyn?
Because due to the fact that he has hardware to prove how he can approach the locker room.
Right.
Due to the fact that he's won a championship as a player and won a championship as a coach. He played with Kobe and Shaq.
Right.
He coached LeBron and Kyrie.
Okay, so he's been around the personalities as a player and also been around them as a coach, because we know Cleveland wiped out that 3-1 deficit against Golden State and won the title in 2016. Now, switching gears, let's look at Philadelphia. Let's say this trade does go through and Embiid is shipped out of Philadelphia and goes to Brooklyn. How do you build around a guy who don't have a jump shot in Ben Simmons? How do you build around him then?
Well, Ben Simmons was developing his jump shot last summer. There was videos of him playing pickup and practices and whatnot, and he was developing a shot.
Okay.
And the organization has to make a choice of which way they want to go. Is they going to stay with Embiid, who only averages 50, 55 games healthy a season? Or they work with the 6'7" point guard that averages almost a triple-double, and the only thing that he is missing is a jumper. What would you rather work with?
Oh, boy.
What would you rather work with?
Yeah, you got a point. But it should have been developed already. He wasn't required to take that many jump shots at LSU. Here's my point. He wasn't required to take that many jump shots at LSU. He always just drove to the basket and bullied his way to the basket. Now he needs a jump shot, and he needs one bad. So I see where you're going with that. If the Bulls make the move to get AD and they get one of the 3 coaches that you mentioned, are they title contenders next year?
Well, I don't want to say title contenders, but I would say they would be top 3 of the East.
Gotcha.
Because I know you're foaming, talking to you about basketball, you personally are foaming at the mouth to see. You're foaming at the mouth to see what Golden State is going to do this summer.
I'm foaming at the mouth to see not only what Golden State will do, but what the Bulls will do. Because they both have big moves up their sleeves. I've put it out there. People don't want to believe me, but watch. Just watch. And I also have this rumor when it comes to Golden State. They won't have to give up much to get either Karl Anthony Towns or Giannis Antetokounmpo. Karl Anthony Towns is my bet for Golden State because he wants out of Minnesota. He wants to walk so badly.
Yeah, you're absolutely absolutely correct. And if for some reason that the Warriors end up getting that number 1 pick in next year's draft, they're not going to draft anybody.
No,
there's a couple. I can't think of their names. I haven't really been following the college games. I think I should. But there's a couple college players that can play in the next level.
Yeah,
and they're going to be drawing that number 1 pick. And I'm telling you, if the Golden State gets that number 1 pick, woo-wee.
Man, if Golden State gets the number 1 pick, one of two things would happen. Number 1, they'll move it, or number 2, they'll draft James Wiseman out of Memphis. And then, with the capital that they already have, they can move a couple of draft picks in the later rounds, move them to Minnesota, and snatch Karl Anthony Towns, if it costs them that. And I don't think it'll cost them anything.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's good. Like I said, if they get the top, if they get a top 3 pick, that is going to be that's like the golden ticket.
It is,
and they can move. They can move the rosters around to make some trades.
Yep.
And try to get some type of capital for it, or they can make a big move and try to get as many as, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm going to have to look at the list, but if they can get some expiring contracts,
yeah,
with that trade to, let's say, Milwaukee will jump all over it, because those expiring contracts, those are also considered golden tickets as well.
They are, because they'll be off the books very quickly, if not within the season at the trade deadline.
Correct.
So any other team that thinks they'll get the number 1 pick is going to be drawing dead, especially with Golden State being in the mix for a top pick. And Lord, if they land a top 3, like you said, if they land either 1, 2, or 3 in the draft lottery, their phones are going to be ringing off the hook, if they're not ringing off the hook already. Sharif Ahmed joining me to talk all things NBA. And folks, follow along with us. We're going to talk all things NBA and get you ready for next season, because when this coronavirus lifts, and it will lift, but it'll lift in its own time, and we want to be sure everybody is at home safe and staying safe. But when it does lift and the NBA returns, we're going to be all over it. Thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate the time.
No problem. Thank you.
Well, that's going to just about do it for this edition of Snowman in the Morning. Want to thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to log on to Snowman Digital Media, where you can hear a replay of this show, and also snowmaninthemorning.com, where you can hear a replay of this show. Check out the podcast on both sites, as the podcast will be available immediately after I close up shop here, which I'm about to do now. Until tomorrow, have a great day. God bless. Remember to make your next move your best move, and always remember, if your dreams don't scare you, then they are not big enough. Dream big, do bigger. I am, and I hope you all are too. Until tomorrow, Snowman's out of here.